Well, hi there. I'm Deb Brown, and I'm with the company Savior.town. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Patrick Palmer, and he's going to share some information about his business and his side hustle. But one thing I want to mention first, we're pretty excited to be in this location. Mary Fortune owns it, and she's got a day spa here in town, and she just bought it. And she's totally redoing it, so we're pretty excited about that as well.
It looks fantastic. I was here when it was a previous business, and she has just really transformed. It's a transformation.
Yeah, it definitely is. And that fits in with her business because she transforms women as well.
Absolutely.
So Pat, tell me what you do today.
I am the computer guy, and what the computer guy does is the computer guy takes care of home and home office and small business computers in a 45-mile radius of Hampton, Iowa.
So what makes you different?
Well, nowadays you don't have the in-home customer service. You don't have the in-home or in-small business customer service like a lot of companies need. A lot of computer shops are, bring it in, we'll take a look at it. Well, bringing in and taking a look at it isn't solving a printer problem on site, or it's not networking two computers on site, or things like that, or improving your Wi-Fi in your business or in your home. So it's things like that that make me unique, and there's no charge inside of that 45-mile radius for mileage or any of that sort of garbage that you always get hit up by through other people that do in-home service. I know that when the price of gas was high, I had a plumber come to the house and he charged me a $10 fee for gas, which, okay, the gas was $3.55 a gallon. Well, gas turned out later to be $2.75 a gallon, and then later down to $2.50 a gallon, and I had to call him again. I still got charged $10. I said, next time I'll just bring my sink to you and you unplug it. But anyway, I really don't like the hidden fees and the gotcha moments. I just like customer service.
Yeah, you've been to my house, thank God, and helped me get my printer going.
Yeah.
And it's so much better for you to just come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what your rates are going to be because you tell me ahead of time. You have a pretty good idea what it's going to be. So I want to go back in time a little bit. What were you doing before the computer guy came into being?
Well, I was 14 years old. And that's a long, long time ago, 14 years old. And my dad in 1980 brought home a computer and says, I bet you $10 you can't put this together. And so I did, and we did. What his problem was, he had a need. He worked for a ready-mix cement plant. And so anyway, what happened was they could never figure out the batch for concrete that would come out correctly. They were always failing tests. So they had to pour bridges and entryways to the interstate, but the state needed a certain mix of concrete. They couldn't do it. So anyway, my dad bought a computer. My dad and I and another guy wrote the formula, a recipe for ready-mix concrete, rock, sand, salt, or rock, sand, magnesium, and some other chemicals plus cement that would make concrete. We would extrapolate that out to 8 3/4 yards of concrete for the truck. They never had a problem after that.
Wow.
And so that's really how I got interested in it. And then years later, I just kept on with it, and we sold internet at the radio station. And I was,
so you were a DJ at the radio station?
I was DJ at the radio station starting in 1983, but then about 1995, we started selling internet kind of as a side hustle at the radio station. And then we had people needed assistance in hooking this up, and my boss says, I hope you're not doing that for free. And I said, well, no, I haven't. And he says, you can make a good business out of this. And so one day I was in Allison, Iowa, knocked on the door. The little girl says, Mom, the computer guy is here, in 1996, and that's how it started.
That's how it started. So you started working from home, correct?
That's correct. And so I started part-time in 1996 with the computer guy, as the computer guy. And then I left the radio station, then worked for a cell phone company, and then decided that in 2006 I was going to quit the cell phone company and start a business on my own full-time. And I just had gotten married. My biggest fear was I was going to be just sitting home watching Dr. Phil every afternoon. And that, my wife says, I know you're not going to do that. And so then in 2009, like everybody who has ever run a computer store, a computer repair shop. They wanted a retail location. So I developed a retail location from 2009 to 2012. Unfortunately, in 2012, some problems with the landlord started developing, and I just had to leave.
Well, that building's now being torn down.
It's
Just
now
to give a
being,
little insight into
it's
that.
now being condemned and torn down, and it's a mess. And anyway, I had the employee I'd hired plus a part-time employee. They found bigger and better things. I'm so happy for those guys. And so I just went back to my basement, and I'm making less and keeping more. And so sometimes that's what it's all about.
That's good. So, who's your perfect customer?
My perfect customer is probably in the age of 45 to 75, but I have a couple of customers who are 93 years old, are fearless. When I see these people saying, I just don't know what to do, the customer, the 93-year-old would say, hit the damn button. And that's what they do. And one of them that lives in Swaledale, she checks in every morning at 5:30 with her 60-some-odd-year-old daughter, and they communicate just to make sure mom's okay and daughter's okay. And there was a time when they had problems with their internet, and they were lost because the daughter couldn't communicate. This was a safety thing. Yeah. And the mother says, I would rather have the internet than my TV. And so anyway, they're keeping on up in Swaledale, and it's always fun to go there.
Well, and Swaledale's a small town in Iowa. Maybe 200 people?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's definitely what we call a very small town.
Yes.
So you're not one to just sit around. You're always active.
Right.
Let's talk about your next side hustle.
Okay. One other thing with the computer business is, when I leave the home, I say, hey, I think there's something wrong with your refrigerator. I'll say, what? I said, well, it doesn't have one of my magnets on it. So I give them a magnet and put it right on their refrigerator, and then they always have my number right there handy. So
I thought you were going to say it's still running.
Better chasing.
All right, so you picked up another little side hustle, and I think you did this more to meet people, didn't you?
Yeah, I'd gone to California on vacation a couple times, and I thought every time I'm out there, I take a Lyft or an Uber, and I thought when I came home the first time, I said, that would be slick. There's a lot of things going on in Mason City, sort of like where we're around. And
let's talk about Mason City.
Sure.
How many people are there?
30,000-ish.
So we can give our listeners an idea how big that is.
And then Clear Lake is about 8,000, but swells in the summertime to maybe 3 or 4 times that size. It's a tourist community. And so I come home from California in 2015 and tell my insurance agent this. She says, no way. Your insurance rates will kill you. You have to do X, Y, and Z, and it's not going to work. And I had Progressive insurance. And they didn't have rideshare insurance. So I went to California again in 2016. I come back and I said, look, we're doing this. So anyway, finally, in 2018, things loosened up on the front of Progressive. They started offering rideshare insurance. Then I wrecked a vehicle, got a new vehicle, or a different vehicle I should say, and told the insurance lady, let's do this. And so it was an extra $25 a month to make my vehicle insurable with Lyft and Uber, which you are opening yourself up to a bevy of lawsuits if there's a problem and you don't have the insurance. It's not worth losing a house over. And so I had to raise a few coverages and my coverage, the requirements for coverage of accidents and whatnot, and of course the insurance. And so really it wasn't all that bad. It was like $25 a month. In Iowa, you don't have to get your vehicle inspected. Some states are really wicked on that. You have to take it to a spot.
Yeah.
But I had to, of course, have a driver's license, a qualifying vehicle, which mine is qualified to be an XL, so I can take up to 6 people, which most everybody else in North Iowa is just a X, it's not XL. And then I had to pass a background check, which is very important. They talk a lot about these gals who've been abducted or had problems Well, it wasn't because they got in the correct Uber car. They got in a wrong Uber car. They didn't even get an Uber. They got into some other car and they had problems. So when the car pulls up, you can see my name, my photo, my license plate number. And then when you get in, you verify my name and we go along. So anyway, I started that in January of 2019, and I've had so much fun. I've had maybe 3 bad customers. I've never.
Well, let's talk bad first.
Sure.
What is a bad customer in north central Iowa?
They throw up in your car.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
not really a great customer.
No, it's
So
not.
then I went on Amazon and bought 50 vomit bags for $15. I have a skill now. I held a vomit bag while driving on a guy who was not going to hold it himself for 15 miles, one-handed. It's just like that. So anyway, you learn little talents. Of course, I'm a gift for gab, and some people feel weird about hopping in the front seat. It doesn't bother me. If they get bossy, I want to listen to a radio station or whatever. Sometimes they'll say, I want to play my iPad into your speaker system. No, I don't like your music. You're not going to like my music. I'm not going to like your music. Leave the radio off.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I often say that I ought to pay them to drive, but they pay me. So.
Which is what you want. So for rural Iowa, we don't have Uber or Lyft. Talk a little bit about the process. I use Lyft all the time when I'm traveling.
Sure.
But talk about what people have to do to get that.
In their town right now, Iowa, in January of 2019, Uber opened up the whole state of Iowa.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's now a matter of if you have an Uber driver in your town that can flip on the app, then you've got Uber in your town. I can start a ride in Iowa on Uber and drive to Minnesota. I can't turn the Uber app on in Minnesota, it just won't let me to drive back. So I've taken several people from North Iowa to the Minneapolis airport,
Sure.
and then I don't get a ride back because I'm not authorized. Now, if I turn the Lyft app on, I could do that. And Lyft is a little bit more lenient. I'm also, when you sign up for Uber, then you are automatically enrolled in Uber Eats, where somebody can order food. And I did that one time. I forgot that my app was on, and all of a sudden it said, it was snowing in Ames, Iowa, and all of a sudden come up says go to McDonald's. And so I thought, oh, well, that's odd. So I went to McDonald's and parked. It knew where I was, and it said take the phone to the cash register clerk. And so I got two fish sandwiches and a Coke, and an order of fries. And then I had to deliver it a half mile away. And the guy was very, very rude. And he says, next time, you're going to bring it to the front door and come up to my apartment. I said, there's not going to be a next time. So, I mean, when I think of Uber Eats, I think of curbside service. You come up. That's how I've always done it when I've ordered food. I go out to the curb, pick up the bag, give the guy a tip, and away I go. Well, he was under a different impression, I guess. So I hope you enjoyed this fillet of fish and order of fries. But they do say that 28% of people who deliver food sample your food.
Oh no!
But McDonald's had it wrapped in like "Do not cross" police tape, so I did not have any of those fries.
Oh, that's funny.
But what I did was I thought, there's got to be a better way. There's always seems to be a better way with Lyft and Uber. That if you're in my car, and I also present on this for other people. If you're in my car for a set amount of time, let's say we're going to drive 15 miles. I have that amount of time to communicate with you, and if you want to learn a little bit about me, or I want to learn a little bit about you, or you want to learn a little bit about the area, I came up with a card, and this is, we'll show it, and maybe Deb will show it a little bit later too.
Yes, I will.
So this card has, on the one side it has my website, and my website is whereshallwego.today. And you go to that on your mobile phone, or you scan that on your mobile phone, it brings up my mobile website, which shows all the casinos in Iowa and all the casinos in southern Minnesota, a place to order tickets. I sell sponsorships for $10 a month on there. So not only am I making money on the ride, I'm making money on sponsorships, which is good. And of course, it wouldn't be me if I didn't put a commercial
That's
for
right.
the computer guy on here. So the other QR code is for the computer guy. On the back of the card, I kind of show you where I drive around at, and then I give highlights of January through December of one big event in North Iowa per month that you need to go to. So January is the Winter Rec Fest in Iowa Falls. February, of course, the Winter Dance Party in Clear Lake. Sheffield is shopping for a cure in March. So every month has a special event, so they can keep this card and think, oh, what's going on in North Iowa, and they can have that. So it also has my ID on there. You're not really supposed to give out your phone number because that's not how we pick up rides. So my phone number is not listed on here, but you can also go to my Facebook page, be a friend. I'll tell you when I'm going to be driving, and some on the road stories. I like to share stories now.
So how many rides on average are you doing every week? Do you do it during the week or only on weekends, or what, what's it look like?
I usually do it either a Friday or a Saturday night.
Okay.
If I did Tuesday, for example, I might give one ride. There's always a gal that goes from the YMCA across town home. That's evidently her ride. They have a taxi company in Mason City. You can call them and you may get picked up in 10 minutes, you may get picked up in 3 hours. So this is a little bit more reliable. But that's basically how it is, and I've given rides from Clear Lake to Dubuque, and from Mason City to the Twin Cities, Mason City to Des Moines, and so all over. And then for example, on this last week, I was at a political rally, and there was a guy standing in the lobby wanting to go to Des Moines. And I said, well, let's talk about that. And he said, I work for Associated Press. I need to get to Des Moines. My coverage with this candidate is over, and my boss says I need to come back, and now what happens? So he says, there's not an Uber anywhere. So I got my phone out, and I said, let's try it now. He says, wow, you're an Uber driver. I said, yeah, let's go. And so I took him to Des Moines.
That's pretty awesome.
Got a nice tip. And then when I was in Des Moines, instead of just driving right back, I did about 6 or 7 Uber rides down there as well too. So the night was $200, and rates differ all over the state, or all over the country, I should say. California may pay their drivers a lot less because there's more of them, and Iowa may pay their drivers a little bit more because there's fewer of them. So you don't really understand how much control you have over your customer that's in the car. So I pick up 2 guys 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, and the guy says, I said, what are you guys up to? He says, we're looking to party. Oh, where are you going? Buffalo Wild Wings. I said, I got a better party spot than Buffalo Wild Wings. I said, unless you want wings and beer, that's fine. I said, I got a place that does karaoke, dancing, and some light food. Take us there. So anyway, I took them, instead of driving a quarter mile, which my ride would have been $2.50, I drove them 4 miles across town with a little increase in that. They gave me a better tip. I said, what time are you guys gonna be done? 12:30. I said, I'll be here at 12:30. 12:30 rolls around, I show up, they ring in, I get them. Then all of a sudden they're hungry for tacos. And so I take them right through the drive-through, and the drive-through price, when you're just not going anywhere, you're getting paid for that too, is sitting still price is like 17 cents a minute. And of course they go through the drive-through, and they actually want to know if I want something. I said no, but anyway, then took them all across town again. So instead of a $5 combination of rides, I probably made $15 plus a nice tip on the end of it. So reading your customer is just no different than working at a hardware store, being the computer guy. You have to read your customer, and that's the same way with Lyft and Uber.
So fascinating to me, Pat. Yeah. At first I wasn't sure when you said you were going to do that, but explaining to me how this all works, it made me think of something. You work out of your home, basically. You don't meet a whole lot of people every day, and that's a common thing for quite a few people now because we're seeing more people work from home.
Right.
You have found a way to have an interaction with more people, and probably helps keep you sane, and your wife for sure feeling better, right?
Right.
And I also know you do something cool on Wednesdays, and you talk about it online. Would you share what you do at lunchtime?
Oh yeah, like I said, we don't. If you work at home, you get in this trap of just looking at all 4 walls every day, or if you work self-employed but just working for customers, you don't get you build a relationship in some respects, but you don't build close ones. And so anyway, well, over 10 years ago, every Wednesday, a bunch of ambulance and fire department workers got together where they could kind of share stories without sharing personal stories or names or anything like that, events. Anyway, one time I was at Buffalo Wild Wings and I said, Pat, come on over. And of course, I told a few jokes, a few stories, and I was immediately accepted into the Wild group. It's called Wings on Wednesday. It's at Buffalo Wild Wings. It's kind of like my Kiwanis or my Rotary Club or my Lions Club. And so we have solved more problems and fixed more issues and counseled more waitresses, I think, than anybody. You know, they always, because they look to us as we're anywhere, our group is anywhere from 21 years of age to 75 years of age, everything. And sometimes we have 3 people show up for lunch, and sometimes we'll have 15 people show up for lunch. It's just a good social interaction that builds a relationship.
Awesome. That's kind of cool. It makes me think about what could I do? You know, I'm on the road a whole lot, but that doesn't mean I couldn't get together with some people once a month or so.
Yeah, and another thing, after I got on with Uber and Lyft, I thought, you know, what other services are out there? And so there's a couple other food delivery things that DoorDash is now in Mason City and Clear Lake.
Excellent.
And Uber Eats is coming to Mason City and Clear Lake. Instacart is in Mason City and Clear Lake. If you want to go shopping for somebody at Aldi, you can go to Aldi's and pick up groceries for somebody.
Nice.
There's another app I use, it's called Roadie. And you've always had that problem where something is in one town, but you need it in another town, and you don't have a vehicle big enough, or you don't want to hassle that, maybe you just need a pickup, and you don't have a pickup. You can work with Roadie, and somebody will deliver that to your location where you're at. So I'm on that. I've never delivered anything. Nothing has ever been that close, but a lot of times in your bigger cities, it's lost luggage. I see that a lot.
Sure.
So there's a lot from Minneapolis, St. Paul Airport to some of the suburbs around Mason City or around Minneapolis. It's just lost luggage.
Well, that makes sense.
And they pay you 15 or 20 bucks to do that, and it saves their employees. You're a 1099 employee. They don't have to pay benefits on this, but at the end of the year, you may need to make sure you talk to your tax person before the end of the year, so you really don't get raked over the coals on paying in money on that.
So you recommend someone else doing your taxes?
Oh, I do. I don't recommend tax people fixing their computers, but I don't recommend the computer guy not having a tax person to fix their stuff. So.
Talk about that a little bit, because you've been 1099 for quite a while.
Right, every time, you know. And
what are some tips and tricks you know?
Pay the quarterly. Sometimes you're required to. I'm kind of an optional. You could pay it. I don't pay it. Sometimes you'd be penalized if you don't pay it. I'm in that area where I don't make enough, but I make too much. So if you don't pay that quarterly income tax, then you could be at the end of the year be hit for quite an expense. Of course, we take every deduction. I take the mileage. You can take the car expense, but my car is old enough; it doesn't have a depreciation on it. So I just take the mileage. I drive, at least 35,000 miles a year. I think this year it's going to be 55 cents a mile, so that adds up.
It does. I think it's 58.
58, and then with the ride share stuff, that's also deductible.
Excellent. That's good to know.
But if you decide to do ride share, be prepared for car expenses. Tires. I've gone through 2 sets of tires. I went through an engine. Of course, your brakes get shot right away, and so just be prepared for that. I mean, it's fun money when you get automatically deposits in your bank account once a week, but be prepared for expenses.
So, are they pretty accurate on their deposits? Do you track that as well from both Uber and Lyft?
Yes. Yeah, I track every. I've got a spreadsheet at home, Excel spreadsheet. I track Uber money, Uber tips, Lyft money, and Lyft tips, my mileage, cash tips, and then the total. And then what happens is I just put the cash. Like say the last time I went to California for like 3 months, I put every tip I got into a bucket and just ignored it. And I had a nice little bunch of money when I went to California the last time, and that was just with $1 bills. Every time I got a $1 bill, I put in there, and I had 250 $1 bills to take to California. So the 20s and the 5s and the 10s I kept for myself. But one time I got a $50 tip, Taking that guy to Des Moines a couple weeks ago was a $43 tip. So people in Iowa tip, people on the coast don't tip.
Yeah, and that's funny, isn't it? Because it used to be we were pretty frugal in Iowa and we didn't tip, but I'm seeing even more in restaurants where people are getting 20%, give 20%. If the service is bad, if the wait staff is bad, then you don't give as much. If the food takes too long, that's not your waiter's problem either.
Right, yeah. We're becoming very sensitive when it comes to that, and we're blaming the wrong people sometimes for the poor service.
Well, and there's more of us than people would imagine doing that side hustle.
Right.
Because the Uber and Lyft is a side hustle for you. And by side hustle, you don't have to do it.
Right.
But you're doing it for some more interaction with people first, and then for some extra money, right?
Right. It's like, for example, the event on Sunday where I happened to take the guy to Des Moines. That was a service. I didn't have to. I could have cared less. I had better things to do at home. But I'm a night owl, and it didn't bother me, and the wife says, oh, okay. I told the guy, I said, there's a couple things that have to happen first. I said, my wife wants to go through the drive-thru at McDonald's, we're doing that, and I said, we're dropping her off in Hampton on the way back. I don't care, that's fine. So anyway, he was absolutely fine with it. So I've taken doctors who have had to make emergency medical calls from Mason City to Rochester.
Wow.
And it's taken, you probably don't know everybody's story from what they say, but there are a lot of stories out there.
And they're fun to hear. I know you're a good storyteller, so I'm glad I got to hear some today and spend some time with you. So for the entrepreneur that works a full-time job and wants to get into doing his or her own thing, because I know you've done that. You've gone from your home to a location, a brick and mortar location. Do you have any tips or tricks for those entrepreneurs other than begin right away, do what you're doing at home, and then grow? But
the employee, that was one thing that stunned me. I had gone to all these entrepreneur classes and quick start classes and fast starts and all these business classes. They never were well, I shouldn't say completely honest, but they were never completely thorough on describing the expense that you will have for every employee. That was like a punch to the gut when I had to match the employee's Social Security, and it's like, oh wow, so when everybody talks about the $15 an hour pay rate, that's one thing, but you're actually paying almost double in benefits to the federal government for that. So I can see it where small businesses get crushed under the weight of some of that. You want to be a good guy, pay the person, $15 an hour, but boy, on some of that gets to be an expense. So you have to keep track of what you're charging. When I'm running out of my house, I don't have to charge what somebody who has a brick and mortar store has to charge with an employee or two. I always said to my employee, if we're both here in our business at the same time, I'm not making any money. So I had to be on the road all the time. He had to be in the shop all the time. That's how we made money.
Excellent. Yeah, and there's always the choice too of doing 1099, but that's an independent. It's not an employee.
Right.
So, and you have to track that money as well.
Yes.
Becky and I have talked about being entrepreneurs, and instead of having 6 weeks of training, which you've gone through, furnished by some division of the government, and they overload you with too much information you don't need, wouldn't it be better just to get together and have a conversation and ask each other questions?
Right.
I mean, you're going to get that training sooner or later. You'll sooner or later be ready for it.
Right.
But when you're first beginning, I think it would be more helpful to say, Pat, I know you did this. What did you do about that?
Right. And if you don't get the training, at the end of the year, your accountant and the IRS will give you the training.
Indeed.
And you don't want that training.
That happened my first year.
Oh.
Yeah. It's like, what? You want how much?
Yeah. It's a stinger, and I mean it's terrible. But if you plan, fail to plan to fail, but plan ahead and budget money out for that. Right now, my Lyft money and my Uber money goes to taxes right now, and then also happen to be on the Hampton City Council, and so half of my wage from that just goes right to just a deduction. I never see it right to the federal government because I don't want to get stung for $800 or $900 in March.
So let's talk about that. Why did you run for city council?
Well,
Hampton's got 4,000 people, to
4,000,
give
yep.
people a heads up.
Yeah. Just I wanted to give back, and I wanted to have a say-so in my town. And it's not that I had an axe to grind or a mission to accomplish or anything. One of the missions, I guess, if you had to say it, was I always said our town looked terrible, just run down buildings and junk and everything. Well, what they did was they got some money, a grant, to have a company drive around, and they took an inventory and found out that our community had a 43% blight level.
Wow.
And I mean, blight will kill any town. The vitality and the who cares type thing, and just throw the garbage out in the street, whatever. And so anyway, that's one thing that we're really taking care of, is since we've had this report come out, I have never seen the amount of new roofs, new siding, cleaning things up, new stairways to your house, new sidewalks, just a lot of cool stuff going on in Hampton. Sure, we've got some problems like the building we're taking down, a couple of little things, but people are taking pride. Once your eyes are open to some of this and say, yeah, you're right, people are taking pride in getting back into that.
Excellent. So my point is anybody can run for city council.
You bet, yeah.
And should, if you have an interest in that and helping that way with your community, I recommend that. And of course, vote. We just had an election here, and we had I think it was 16.7 turnout. Well, that's the last time we had, it was school board election and city council. It was like 8%.
Right,
so it doubled.
Right.
So there's that. And I saw quite a few people out that I hadn't seen before. So talk to your neighbor, talk to your friend, drive somebody to the polls when it's time to vote.
Right.
It really does make a difference.
You bet. So yeah, it's just part of giving back. And now when you're on the city council and you're self-employed and you serve the public, your business will drop. So just be aware of that, because last 2 weeks ago we deemed a dog vicious. They had to either put the dog down or move it out of town. Those people are not going to call me for computer work, because it's just something that happens.
Dogs are a big problem, I think, in every town. Do you have an animal control policy in Hampton?
Yeah, we have vicious dog thing. We do not specify breeds, because that's as unfair as racism for dogs, basically.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we don't have that, but if your dog bites somebody, it's probably going to not stay in Hampton. So.
Okay. Well, Pat, anything else you'd like to share today?
I just think this is a fantastic venue for you to talk about entrepreneurs. I hope that you get around to talking to Mary with this building, because this is going to be a big entrepreneurial vision that she's got here in Webster City. I can't wait to see that either.
Yeah, they're in the midst of finishing it, and absolutely she'll be on our list, because she does some really cool things, including float tanks. Have you ever been in a float tank?
I'm scared of them.
I have in Chicago when I lived there,
Right.
and it's just wild.
Yeah.
You just lay there and you don't hear anything, and next thing you know, you're sleeping, or you emptied your mind out.
Sure.
You'll have to try it.
I'll try something like that.
Well, thank you for your time today. Give us your number again, or your contact information.
You bet. It's Patrick Palmer, the computer guy. You can find me on Facebook at Pat the Computer Guy. You always call me 641-420-1234. I have the easiest number in North Iowa. And my website is www.thecomputerguy.bz. B as in boy, Z as in zebra. That was one mistake I made early on. I didn't buy the .com. I didn't realize that. If you're new to business, get everything the same. Your website, your Facebook, your Twitter, your LinkedIn, your Instagram.
And buy all the extensions.
Buy all the extensions, yeah. They're cheap, and then you don't have anybody buying them and doing funny stuff.
Yep. Thank you, Pat. I appreciate your time today. And I'm Deb Brown. We're out of here.